Compared to last season, Matt Olson's 2024 was a little underwhelming, but he deserves more credit and less hate than he's getting. Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Monday, October 28th. Your source of news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on Twitter, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and Instagram as well. And you can find all of my written work, bravestoday.com, because this is both a podcast and a newsletter. And I was watching the World Series over the weekend, as many of us did. And obviously the biggest moment, I would argue, from the first two games was one Freddie Freeman hitting a walk-off grand slam in the 10th inning of Game 1 to give the Dodgers a 1-0 lead in the series. And I was asked after that, do I think that Freddie Freeman will be in the Hall of Fame and will he be a member of the Braves? And that's a little bit of a complicated question. We'll get to that a little bit later, I think, in the show. But the thing that I noticed is a lot of the praise for Freddie Freeman from Braves fans. This is almost exclusively a Braves fan thing. Much of the praise for Freddie Freeman and the expressing regret that he was no longer here, which is warranted. You're allowed to be sad that Freddie Freeman is no longer a member of the Atlanta Braves. That is allowed. But a lot of that came at the expense of Matt Olson. Tweets things like, Freddie Freeman's out here hitting grand slams in the World Series and we're stuck with this bum Matt Olson and things like that. I'm paraphrasing, but that's the gist of what it was. And I want to talk about Matt Olson's 2024 because, yes, when you compare it to what he did in 2023, it is underwhelming. It is safe to say disappointing results compared to 2023. But I think it still was plenty of things went right. And there's plenty of reason to hope that he can rebound pretty well next season. So for context, if you forgot what he did in 2023, 283 average with a 604 slug, led baseball, I believe, in slugging percentage, 54 homers, 139 RBI, both of those led all of baseball. The 54 homers is a Braves single-season franchise record with 104 walks to 167 strikeouts. He was an MVP finisher. He was in that top group. He was behind, obviously, Ronald Acuna Jr. and Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. Fourth place finisher. He got a silver slugger. He was an all-star. And this year, it is very easy to say, and is not a lie, not wrong to say, that Matt Olson did not come close to living up to what that season was. Matt Olson batted .247 this year with a .457 slug. So his batting average went down just under 40 points. His slugging went down just under 150 points. And his on base went down 46 points. He finished with 29 home runs and 98 RBI. So 41 RBI less and 25 home runs less. He had almost double the production in 23 that he had in 24 on that. 71 walks to 170 strikeouts. But when you look at the year as a whole, yes, it is disappointing from where he was in previous years. When you break it down, though, there was plenty of things to like about what Matt Olson did and plenty of reason to believe that he can be better next year. So I think you have to acknowledge he was pretty bad in a couple of these months. The month of April, it's technically March and April because they're together here, right? He batted .202 with a .385 slugging. Yes, he hit 3 home runs. He drove in 15, but you weren't seeing the power production you're accustomed to from Matt Olson. And I would actually argue it was very similar to his 2022 season, where a lot of what should have been home runs were doubles. And we've talked on this show, on the site, in many different iterations about how the ball was not flying early this year like it did in previous seasons. Conspiracy theory or not, whatever you want to believe on that. I 100% do believe in the conspiracy theory. This hat is actually foil for those of you on YouTube. And then in the month of July, Matt Olson was not very good. Batted 172 with 5 home runs and 9 RBI. And it could be argued that's really the month that held him out of the 100 RBI plateau this year for the first time in a while. But outside of that, Matt Olson was actually decently productive. He batted 270 in May, batted 255 in June. He batted 264 in August. And then, of course, the final month of the season, he batted 319. His OPS in both of those final months, 911 in August, 954 in September. So when you split it up, his first half numbers, 230 batting average, 714 OPS. Yeah, not good at all. Second half, he batted 271 with an 896 OPS. So I would argue that he got significantly better in the second half. He made the adjustments, like we talked about how some of these hitters struggled with not getting as many elevated fastballs, getting more things down. His struggles were actually different. I'm going to get to that in a second, about what happened to him and what he did wrong this year and what ultimately I think he fixed on that. But there are also some other things you really have to like about what Matt Olson did in 2024. One of the big complaints, and we heard this a lot when Kevin Seitzer was fired, was that this team was not good situationally. That the Atlanta Braves really struggled to bring runners over, to bring runners in, and do all of that stuff. Guess what? Matt Olson with men on base batted 275. Matt Olson with runners in scoring position batted 298. He was almost a 300 hitter with runners in scoring position this season. With a runner on third, and it's a small sample size, mind you, 21 plate appearances. With a runner on third, he batted 471. So just about every other time he came to the plate with a runner on third, he got a base hit. He got that runner in. He had 9 RBI in those 21 plate appearances. He walked 3 times. He only struck out twice. And that's the big thing for me. For a guy who strikes out as much as he does, he strikes out right around once a game. 162 games, 167 last year, 170 this year. He strikes out about once a game. For a guy that does that, with the runner on third, he almost never does it. And it's like this: runners on second and third, OPS of 1.65. Runners on first and third, OPS of 1.353. Bases loaded, he batted 333 with the 1306 OPS. Matt Olson gets it done with runners on base, specifically runners in scoring position. You have to feel good about, in situations, Matt Olson was effective. And I would go even farther to say that his ability to hit with runners in scoring position is ultimately what saved his season. He finished with 98 RBI. I believe it was a dead even 600 at-bats this year. Of those 98 RBI, 65 of them came in the 141 at-bats he took with runners in scoring position. 2/3 of all of his RBI came in 20% of his at-bats. And it just so happened to be it was the at-bats with runners in scoring position. Matt Olson, by situational hitting, was one of the more reliable hitters in 2024, despite how it felt at times, right? Early in the year, again, I know he struggled in April. He struggled again in July, coming out of the All-Star break. But on the whole, Matt Olson was able to produce with runners in scoring position this year. Defensively, also was able to perform. He won the Fielding Bible Award at first base for defense. He came in with plus 13 defensive runs saved. That is the highest DRS value of his career. He came in at plus 4 outs above average. He is a Gold Glove finalist, along with, I believe it's Bryce Harper, and then Christian Walker of the Phillies, Foreshadowing. Christian Walker of the Diamondbacks, who absolutely is going to win this for, I think, now a third consecutive year and then enter free agency. But for a guy who's always been good at defense and actually, from a metric perspective, took a step back last year. He was -4 outs above average at first base last year. He jumped from -4 to +4. He went back to well above average defensively at first base, a position not known for defense, and a position where bad defense can really hurt you because your first baseman is involved in a lot of plays. Obviously, they are the receiving end on any ground out to the infield. So I would argue there are things that Matt Olson did well in 2024 that perhaps he's not getting credit for because he had a generational year in 2023. A year that, in retrospect, was probably a 95th percentile outcome for him and a lot of other members of this roster. It wasn't just Matt Olson who performed a lot better in 2023 than even anybody projected or expected. And I think a little bit of that was, a lot of that probably, was baked into our expectations of their performance this year. And while, yes, 247 is a step back, it's a small step back. His career batting average in Atlanta is 257. His career batting average in all is 254. So that's 7 points below where he was. His now homer production, it is 100%. Yes, it is accurate to argue he took a step back. 29 home runs is his lowest full season total since the first full season of his career in 2018. He hit 29 for Oakland and 33 doubles, right? So it is 100% fair to acknowledge that, yes, he took a step back in the home run production department. You know, his slugging of 457, it's not his lowest, but 2018 was a 453. So yes, he took a step back and it wasn't a perfect season, but it was better than perhaps he gets credit for. And I don't know why people have this thing about Freddie Freeman versus Matt Olson. Correction, I understand why people do that. Because Olson is the guy who had to come in and replace Freeman, right? And the Freeman situation is cloudy. I'm not going to tell you how to feel about Freddie Freeman, right? I was a lot unhappier about Freddie Freeman leaving in the past than I am now because of all the stuff that's come out about his agent and his agent's outsized role in him leaving, as far as the ultimatum to Alex Anthopoulos, not properly relaying the specifics of the deal and all that stuff. So I have gotten rid of my hard feelings about Freeman, right? I no longer have those hard feelings about Freddie Freeman leaving. Dansby Swanson, I never had hard feelings. That financial offer was so much bigger, dude. Just go get that back. I'm 100% fine with Dansby leaving. It sucks. I had all things loyal merchandise. It absolutely sucks, but I get it. Freeman was harder for me to get over, but I've gotten over it. I'm happy for him. Again, we'll talk at the end of the show about whether or not he'll go in the Hall of Fame with the Braves cap or not. But I do want to address what went wrong for Matt Olson, because I do think there is some fixable things here that we're going to see Tim Hyers be able to work on with Matt Olson. And while he's probably not going to repeat the season he had in 2023, a 40-homer season is not out of the question if he can fix some of this stuff. We'll talk about that next right here on Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby talking about Matt Olson and the year that he had. We're going to give him a grade at the end of the show. But real quick, I do want to give a thanks to our friends over at Encase Cards for sponsoring today's episode. It's a custom card manufacturer. Really cool concept here. You upload your source photos of whatever it might be. You playing music. For me, it's my kids playing youth sports. They take your source photos. Their artists personalize it for the subject. In this case, for my kids. Putting in the team they play for, the position, putting a background on the photo, doing all of that different work to make this from just a photo they took at picture day into something, a special keepsake for them. Once it is done, and you have a hand in the process, obviously. You are going through proofs. You are giving them the ideas of what you want, all of that kind of stuff. My daughter picked her own background on her card from 5 different options they sent us based on what she said she wanted, right? From there, they printed on high-quality cardstock. They slab it and ship it to you so you can display it as a keepsake. My son thinks it's the coolest thing that he has his own trading card. He sees the cards in my office. I've got a Hurston Waldrop over there, a Michael Harris. I've got a signed Blake Burkhalter because I knew him at Auburn, all that kind of stuff. My son thinks it's so cool that he has one of those too. Check him out, ncasecards.com. It's ncaseccards.com. Okay, so talking about Matt Olson, acknowledge the things that went right. Situational hitting, runners in scoring position, he did really well. Guys on base in general, he did really well. Defense, he did that really well. What went wrong for Matt Olson in 2024? 2024. This is not a comprehensive list, right? We've already addressed the power outage in general that kind of happened for MLB, especially early in the year where balls weren't flying as far, exit velocities were down, and all of that kind of stuff. We've already addressed that, and so that obviously hit the Braves a lot more than some other teams. But one specific area where I think it hurt Matt Olson is it feels like Matt Olson put a little bit of a bigger focus than usual into trying to pull the ball. Okay, so his pull rate in 2023 was 38.2%. And just so we're all on the same page, hitting the ball, so a left-handed hitter for Matt Olson, hitting the ball to the right of the center fielder all the way down to the right field line constitutes pulling the ball, okay? Anything, also you have up the middle and you have opposite field going to the left fielder. And so I'm assuming that was an intentional decision, right? Most players can get more power when they pull the ball. You get out in front of the ball, you're able to generate more power on your swings. It's usually a shorter and more direct swing, and you can get more power, more distance, and all of that. But here's the issue with that. If it was a deliberate decision, I think there's two reasons, or there's a reason why it didn't work out that well, and there's a reason why it ended up being, or a reason it ended up having an outsized impact on what he was trying to do, if that makes sense. The reason I don't think it worked out is Matt Olson's bat speed was appreciably lower this year than it was last year. Okay, now here's the hard part. StatCast does not have bat speed information publicly available for 2023. I was able to get a list of the top 10 guys in average bat speed for 23 and 24 and what their changes were in bat speed. Not a full list, but I was able to get a top 10. Matt Olson was in that top 10. Ronald Acuna Jr. also in that top 10. He was number 2 last year, 76.7 miles an hour. This is Ronald Acuna Jr. And he was at 76.7 miles an hour this year. The exact same. He went from second to third because Aaron Judge improved by 0.4 miles an hour. Most guys on this list either went up or slightly went down, right? Shohei Ohtani went from 76 miles an hour to 75.7. So he went down 0.3 mile an hour, right? Just a little bit. And these are all, again, the hardest hitting guys in all of baseball, okay? Pete Alonso went down 0.3 mile an hour, 75.4 to 75.1. Matt Olson went down 1.25 miles an hour. He went from 75.3 miles an hour in 2023, average bat speed, to 74. Now, that 74 is still 80th percentile in all of baseball, but it is a significant and appreciable drop in bat speed from the previous year. And because of that, you saw some issues, right? The first thing is his hard hit rate went down significantly. He went down 9.3% in hard hit rate. Some other things may be the same, maybe not. He was throwing more fastballs, but he missed more of them. And again, it was these fastballs that are up and in that area where you would think he would be trying to get to it and pull it. But he was hitting them less distance and all of that. And let's quantify this here. Okay. So zone 3, which for a left-handed hitter is a strike up and in, that if you divide the plate into 9 quadrants on StatCast, zone 3 is up and into a lefty. He got 117 total swings. He swung 80% of the time at pitches up there, right? 80% of the time he swung at pitches in zone 3 because that's where he's trying to do. He's trying to get out in front of those pitches. He's trying to pull them down the line for power production, right? 117 total swings. He put 28 balls into play. That is a very high miss rate. And I'm not saying, I don't have the breakdown on how many of those were fastballs, how many of those were changeups and sliders and all of that. That's typically not an area where you're throwing a lot of changeups and sliders. You don't throw a lot of those things up in the zone. So this is mostly, I'm assuming this is mostly fastballs. So you're already a little bit concerned. 28 batted ball events on 117 swings. How many barrels he got of those 28 batted ball events? 2. That's it. Just 2. And the reason is his average exit velocity of all 9 zones in the strike zone was lowest on pitches up and in. And that's weird because, again, you would expect those to be your best work, right? You expect those to be your absolute best production, right? Not Matt Olson. 88 mile an hour average exit velocity. And you combine that with the fact that he wasn't getting as good of contact, most of his launch angles in the strike zone, right where you want him to be. 21 degrees, 22 degrees, 24 degrees, things like that you really want him, like you really want to be doing, right? In zone 3, which is again, up and in up there, 32 degrees. To get a barrel on a ball that you hit 32 degrees, it has to be 100 miles an hour. And again, 88 miles an hour was his average exit velocity there. Almost every other part of the strike zone, he's hitting stuff 97, 96, hard of the plates 99, down and ends 97. It's just 88 miles an hour up there. Unfortunately, 88 miles an hour did not help him travel backwards in time. So that kind of sucks. And because of that, you really end up seeing his power production drop because I think he was almost focusing too much on trying to pull, but he didn't, for some reason, have the bat speed to catch up to those pitches. Now, here's why I have hope for next year. Tim Hyers he was with the Rangers. Before that, he was with Boston. One of the things I know for a fact Boston does this. I think Texas does this with their prospects. I got to talk to a few people. I'm pretty sure they do. But Boston, for one, is big into bat speed training. We're going to specifically intentionally work on speeding your bat up, which will help you hit fastballs. It'll help you turn on pitches. It'll help you get the bat head out in front of a pitch, pull it down the line, and hit for power. So I know some folks that have a facility in Atlanta. I know that there's a good chance that they're going to, Braves players work out of that facility. I feel pretty confident that they're going to get Matt Olson in that facility this offseason. And I feel confident they're going to work with him on bat speed to whatever that was. If it was a decision issue, if it was a physical nagging thing, whatever it may have been, they're going to get that worked out and they're going to get that bat speed back to where it needs to be. The other frustrating impact that he had that I think contributes to the home run numbers being so much worse is when you look at the effect of the ball and how that ball was not flying nearly as far. A lot of Matt Olson's lost home runs were to the opposite field. Okay. Those of you on YouTube, you'll be able to see this. Those of you on audio, you won't be able to see this, but this is a graphic from StatCast. I have the 2023 spray chart and the 2024 spray chart. Again, as a lefty hitter, he's hitting balls down the right field line. Those are pulled. Opposite field is to left field. On the 2023 chart, he has 6 home runs right down the left field line, another one directly over the left fielder's head, and from between the left fielder and the center fielder, he's got another 10 home runs. So math in my head, that's 17 home runs to the opposite field. In 2024, Matt Olson had 3 home runs that went to the left of the center fielder. 3. None of them down the line. He had 4 doubles at the wall down the line. He had 3 home runs over the head of the left fielder to straight to left field, and then none in the left center gap. Whereas last year, he was just peppering that side. Now, granted, he still pulled a ton of home runs, and you can see the effect of the ball because when you look on the right-hand side, you see a bunch of doubles and even a triple over there that probably would have been out last year that were not out this year. I mean, there's a good 8 or 9 doubles that are sitting in the middle of some of these closest home runs down on the right-hand side. So the combination, like the deadened ball and not being able to get balls to the opposite field in general, I think because he was focusing on trying to pull the ball, meant that his home run count was significantly lower than the rest of his production drop. His production dropped across the board just about, but the home runs were the noticeable thing, and that to me looks like that is why. I teased this a little bit in the show a few times. I was asked, this is done with Matt Olson, I'm going to give him a B on this season, probably a B-. I think it was better than we give him credit for. It obviously wasn't an A. Last year was an A+, right? I'd probably give him a B on this. But I was asked over the weekend after the Freddie Grand Slam, do we think that Freddie Freeman enters the Hall of Fame as an Atlanta Brave? And I'm at the point now where I do not. He's earned more WAR as a Brave than as a Dodger. He won a World Series with the Braves. He is on track, recording this prior to Monday night's game, he is on track to win a World Series as a Dodger. And he will still have more WAR with Atlanta than with LA. But I think we're at the point now where Freddie may retire a Brave on a one-day contract, something like that. I don't think he probably ends up coming back for a year at the end of his deal, like how Albert Pujols went back to St. Louis at the end of his deal. I don't think Freddie does that. Matt Olson will still be here. Freddie'd have to come DH for a year. But I think that Freddie Freeman ends up pulling a Greg Maddux and going in the Hall of Fame with a blank cap. Because he will have had 2 cities where he had performed very well, a Hall of Fame career, obviously. I'm expecting him to have won a World Series in both cities. And he's had some big postseason moments in LA. Obviously, that walk-off grand slam in the 10th inning. I believe that is the only, if I heard this right, the only walk-off grand slam in World Series history. Unfortunately, I don't think you will see Freddie Freeman enter the Hall of Fame as a member of the Braves. You will see him with a blank cap. Obviously, we still know he's a member of the Braves. Again, I'm not telling you what to think about Freddie Freeman. You can like him, you can dislike him, whatever. You can blame his agent, you can blame him, whatever you want to do. But I am saying you need to stop dogging Matt Olson at the same time. Matt Olson has been very good with the Atlanta Braves. He was a 4th place MVP finisher last year. He has hit 117 home runs in 3 seasons in Atlanta. He has 340 RBI in 3 seasons in Atlanta, and he's never missed a game. He's played every single game, all 3 seasons he's been in Atlanta. You can think whatever you want to think about Freddie Freeman. Don't do it at Matt Olson's expense. If you're listening on YouTube, do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell when we drop tomorrow's episode. Leave us your comments. We want to hear your show ideas. We want to hear your comments, your thoughts on this, all of that. If you're on audio, subscribe to the show. Either way, either person, YouTube or audio, leave a 5-star review. Tell your friends. They can go out and they can listen to some great Braves talk every single day. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.